3:02 p.m. This meeting will be held in a hybrid manner where committee members staff, and the public can participate electronically or in person. The meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available on the township website. Notice is hereby provided that under the authority of the Municipal Act 2001, in accordance with Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, that all information attained is considered part of the public record. I would look for a motion to confirm the agenda. Ms. Pierce and seconder, Mr. Rogers, thank you. Are there any questions or comments about the agenda? And so I will call the question. All in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof for items on the agenda, Ms. Pierce?
Work? Yeah. Okay. I'm declaring conflict for the St. Paul's application, as I'm the clerk of session for St. Paul's.
Yeah.
That's item 4.9, I think it is.
So when we're on that agenda, would Ms. Pierce just not participate in the debate, but can stay in the room? Okay, thank you.
Not quite for.
Are there any other disclosures of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. We will move on to adoption of the minutes. We have before us the Community Grant Committee meeting minutes from the 19th of February, 2025. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes. Mr. Herbst, thank you. Seconded by Mr. Becking. Any questions or comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? I'll call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Thank you. And speeding right along, we have a presentation. The presentation is from Andy Mills, who's the Executive Director to the Food Sharing Project, to provide a presentation on the benefits and use of the 2024 Community Grant.
Thank you very much. This is a little unusual. Usually I'm standing in front of a crowd and all these people behind me. I apologize for my back, but thank you, members of the Community Grants Committee. I appreciate having the opportunity to come and speak to you today. So I want to thank you for the opportunity. My name is Andy Mills. I'm the Executive Director of the Food Sharing Project. I always like to make a little interactive and ask how many people have heard of the Food Sharing Project before? A few, right. We're kind of best kept secret in the Kingston area. We've been around for 40 years. I just want to take a few minutes to express our appreciation and tell you a little bit about what we do and what we did with the grant that you awarded us. So first things first, we did receive a grant of $10,000 as part of the Loyalist Community Grants Program. But I'll tell you a little bit about the organization first, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about that. So hopefully you can see these okay. They're a little bit small on the screen for the viewers, but hopefully they're all right. I'll just go through here. So the Food Sharing Project is a registered non-for-profit charity. We're a Canadian charity. We were established just over 40 years ago. Actually, we predate the provincial student nutrition program. There is a province of Ontario funded student nutrition program. We started actually before that even existed. We are the organization that provides food and equipment for in-school breakfast, lunch, and hearty snack programs. We are a community partner of Student Nutrition Ontario, which is the provincial program that partially funds some of the works that we do. And our area is the City of Kingston and all of Frontenac and Lennox and Addington counties. That's the geography that we cover, which of course is, as you know, is a large area the size of geographically the Prince Edward Island, so it's a pretty large space. Students come to school without enough food for a variety of reasons, and educators and research tell us that they can eat nutritious food at school. Sorry, I didn't turn my phone off. Uh-oh. New phone, haven't figured it out yet. My apologies. Research tells us that when students can eat nutritious food at At school, students are more engaged in their learning, they can focus better on their tasks, and have more positive social interactions throughout the day. They're also more willing to try something new, which can lead to healthier food choices as adults. At each school, a student nutrition program coordinator is responsible for operating their program. So every school operates a little differently. The coordinator places an order from a list of food that we curate, which is from an online ordering system. All the food we provide meets nutritional criteria established by the province of Ontario and in line with the Canada Food Guide. We then collate all these orders and we order them from our suppliers, taking advantage of bulk purchasing agreements and negotiating prices. On Monday mornings is really when the magic happens, and I invite anybody to come and if you're looking for some volunteer work, and get a group together and come and join us sometime. So we can't do it without our volunteers, and we have a volunteer team that is close to 20 people. We have a group of about 12 or so that come in on a rotating schedule on Mondays. And you're seeing these photographs. There's some pictures of piles of banana boxes and some of our volunteers. We use these lovely banana boxes to pack the school orders. So we collate the orders for each of the schools. We pack them in the banana boxes, and each week we pack about 450 boxes of food, which is about 8 tons of food. And the total value these days is around $25,000. So that's per week for KFL&A. When we have it all packed, our staff then deliver the food. So right now we have 2 vans. We just got a grant to buy a third one. We're pretty excited about it. This summer, with our vans, we deliver right to the doors of the school and bring it into the school and help the schools get their food set up. We travel about 30 hours per week, about 700 kilometers every week across the area. Schools then use the food we deliver to provide healthy meals and snacks that are available to any student who needs nutrition through the day. Although there is always one coordinator at each school, often an educational assistant, but it could be a vice principal in a smaller school or community volunteer, there are other folks, staff, community volunteers, and even students who assist in preparing snack bins for classrooms or preparing sandwiches for lunch. I know the top fridge picture, the cooler is at Amherstview, and I think the other one is JJ O'Neill, Napanee, with some kids helping out there. A cornerstone principle of student nutrition programs is that the food is accessible to any student who needs it. There's no application, there's no criteria, there's no eligibility. Students might need nutrition at school for a variety of reasons. They might have left their lunch on the bus. They have an hour-long bus ride to school. The morning was rushed as parents are juggling 2 part-time jobs and trying to get everybody off to school on time. A growth spurt, lots of different reasons. And in many cases, or in some cases, families are struggling to make ends meet and to provide healthy meals. For some students, school can be the only place they get a meal or a healthy meal. You know how you feel when lunch is a little bit late, and imagine a child struggling to do the hard things we ask them to do at school without having had breakfast that morning, or for some, dinner the night before. It's an unfortunate reality. In 2024, Public Health reported that 1 in 3 families in KFL&A experienced food insecurity. And that what's staggering is that the year before that was 1 in 6, and the year before that it was 1 in 9. So it's a frightening trend. As food prices increase, the cost of living increases, and we're all struggling with affordability to some sense. So when we provide healthy food at school every day, those families don't have to worry about that. They know that they can spend their limited income on rent, utilities, or put gas in the car to get to work. Students tell us that food they have at school really makes a difference. Younger students tell us that food makes them feel happy. A grade 5 student told one of our volunteers he didn't know why, but math was easier when he had something to eat. Secondary students tell us that having food to grab on the way to class just helps them get there. So to bring it back to the Loyalist context, just to give you a picture of what's happening, if you can see the numbers on the screen, we looked at the dollar value of food orders placed by the township, by schools in the township from September till about the middle of June. So this is about a week or 2 old. And as you can see, they vary tremendously depending on the size of the school and the enrollment, and also what facilities and equipment and staffing are available in each individual school. But basically in total, over $60,000 of value of food at wholesale cost, at discounted cost, is being provided to the schools in Loyalist Township. Based on the value that we calculate for meals and snacks, that's roughly 40,000 healthy meals and snacks, which is about 200 meals per day. So students are accessing in Loyalist alone roughly 200 meals or healthy snacks per day. So, and I think the numbers are about 2,500 students in the township. So that's about 10% of kids, just about 10% that are accessing it on a regular basis, and some on a less regular basis. Your generous grant of $10,000 was fantastic and was used in a couple of different ways. So one thing that we provide is equipment to schools to help them enhance their meal programs. And that's some funding that's sometimes a little tricky to get. So we use a portion of the funding. We ask the schools, what do you need? What can you do just to help make your program a little better? And sometimes it was a microwave, it was a toaster, it was something simple. It might have been a fridge to keep the milk cold and keep the food cold. So we have a young lady in Amherst Island here with her new toaster and the first picture. And I think this is Mount Carmel School in Amherstview with a fridge, and there's a microwave and a few different things that we supplied. So we used about $3,500 of the grant to go towards equipment. Um, Toasters, cooler bags, ice packs, griddles, lunch cart, food bins, blenders, microwave, mini fridges, and full-size fridges. So a bunch of different things. The rest of the funding, whoops, back here. The rest of the funding, about 6,500 was used towards that $60,000 of food. The provincial funding that we receive, the core funding that we receive from the province of Ontario has not increased in 12 years. I don't know if you've been to the grocery store in 12 years, but things have changed a little bit. So that core funding is becoming less and less a part of our core funding. So we have to look at different ways to diversify. So the funding received from Loyalist Township helped us be able to make sure that we didn't have to say no to these schools in this area, and we can give them what they needed to feed their kids. We do have funding from other national foundations like Breakfast Club of Canada. We are a United Way agency, and we do fundraising as well too. But this grant was really instrumental in helping us make sure that we could meet the needs in this area and helped us meet needs in another area as well too. So I'm not sure of protocol, but I am happy to answer questions. But what I'd like to close with, and I was hoping would be on the last slide and it could be kaboom, is that we have this lovely little saying that some kids at JG Simcoe once sent me is thank you from the bottom of our bellies. Oh, and I'm sorry, I got today, this lovely little thank you card from Amherst Island, from a grade 6 student who actually sent this to us. And I just literally got this an hour ago, and they're grateful for the food provided and so on, but just reference to this grant. Thank you. Also, thank you for the awesome kitchen items, the blender, microwave, mini fridge, and toaster. These will be such a big help in our lunchroom during nutrition breaks. We're already thinking about fun things we can make and ways we can use them to learn new skills. From the mouths of babes. So thank you very much for the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what we do and what we do with your grant. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mills. I actually had the opportunity to go one Monday and help pack those 450 boxes.
I do recognize you now.
You right, because I was so efficient.
Yes. No, well, maybe. Sure. Yes.
And it's quite eye-opening, the amount of food that's needed in these schools and what's going out, and it's good work. Did anyone on the committee have questions for the presenter? Mr. Herbst.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Do you coordinate your efforts with other community groups that are essentially providing the same meals at schools?
So we do. So we have the contract, if you will, with the province, for lack of a better words, an agreement with the province to deliver the program in schools. But we work with other community agencies who distribute food to different organizations and make sure we direct people, families in need, to other agencies in the community if they're in a situation where they require other things. We do have some partnerships with groups like Lionhearts, for example, that operates the Community Food Distribution Warehouse in Kingston, which is a clearinghouse for large food donations. The food that we provide has to meet nutritional criteria, and we buy in really large bulk, so we don't really take sort of one-off donations because it's just too complex. But we do sometimes in the fall, for example, we have orchards that donate apples to skids and skids of apples to the Community Food Distribution Warehouse, and we'll be contacted and they'll say, do you want to, we'll give you a crate a week kind of thing. So we sort of coordinate some of that to help reduce some of our costs as well too. That answer your question? Okay.
Any other questions from the committee? No. Ms. Pierce?
Just to thank you for what you're doing. It's such important work. I guess the only thing I would ask is, do you have anyone within your organization who can advocate for even kind of updated resources from the province? I mean, 12 years with no change is pretty disastrous.
How many hours do you have? So We are a member of some provincial organizations like the Ontario Coalition for Healthy School Food, which is a chapter of a provincial coalition, which has done a lot of advocacy for the National School Food Program, which was implemented federally in the budget last year after many years of advocacy. And we're working on advocating provincially as well too. We meet with MPPs. So we do a lot of that. We are so busy that we don't have time to do advocacy ourselves as much, but we work through these partner agencies and we, all of our federal and provincial officials have been in our warehouse and seen and packed boxes, some of them. So we do as much as we can that way, but we certainly appreciate if anybody is interested in contacting their elected officials at any level to ask them to, feed our kids. It's just the most basic important thing. So we certainly encourage that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from the committee? No. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's always nice to hear back what happened with the funding and how it made an impact. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Next, we have open forum. So during open forum, any person may address the committee on any matter that's listed on the agenda. Anyone wishing to speak at a committee meeting can register in advance with the clerk's division or can use the raise hand button in Zoom when called upon by the chair. So I will start in the room and then I will go to the online audience to see if there's anyone that wishes to speak. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone registered?
There's nobody who has previously registered, but there are a few members in the audience who have mentioned they would like to speak.
Good. So if you could raise your hand if you're in. So we'll start with Mr. Gowan.
My name is Dale Gowan. I'm a member of the board of directors on the Amherst Island Agricultural Society. 2024, we received a grant to begin construction of a pavilion. That was delayed for a variety of reasons, but got well started towards the end of the year. And then for 2025, we requested additional funding to complete the building and for some extra equipment and so forth. The committee, in its generosity, suggested that our grant should be increased a bit because one of the items on our wish list was bleachers, and there was a concern that we hadn't allowed for potential engineering and building permit costs. We are planning to use portable pre-constructed bleachers, so that's not required. But I'll bring you up to date on the status of the pavilion just for a second. It's basically finished. We had the official opening on June the 14th. And last weekend on Saturday, we had our first community gathering there, sort of a social farmers market community get together. And I think we had over 150 people attend and about 13 or 14 different vendors. So it's already been a success. But what we realized this spring when we were finishing the building, originally we had planned on just a gravel walkway or something from the parking area up to the pavilion. On reflection, we realized that wasn't really going to be a good long-term solution and was not going to be a good solution for accessibility. So we investigated putting in a concrete walkway, and Lafarge generously granted a donation of concrete for it. So we had to provide the prep work and the forming and finishing and landscaping around at the end. That extra amount came to just under $10,000. So what we are requesting would be permission from the committee to redirect those extra funds that were granted earlier this year and apply them to the walkway. So I'll leave that up to your consideration, but That's my request. Okay. Any questions or?
I don't have a question for you. I have a question for the clerk's office. So the amount was granted for the project, and I guess what the Ag Society is asking is if they can spend money that was granted for one thing on a different part of the project if they still have that room in their budget. Is that something that's going to require a motion?
Through the chair, so the recipient of the grant funding can contact the clerk's division or the clerk's department in writing, and the clerk can review the request. And if it is closely related to the approved project, then a decision can be made about the reallocation of funds.
That's great.
So I'll be in contact. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gowan, and thank you to the clerk's office for that. Do I have other people in the audience that would like to speak in open forum? We have a representative from the Boys and Girls Club. Please come forward.
So thank you for your time. I wanted to just, inspired by, Andy's presentation today, I wanted to just talk a few minutes just about Boys and Girls Club as an organization, or, formerly the Boys and Girls Club of Kingston and area, or BGC Southeast. So as an organization, there's the perception of what we have traditionally been offering, which is, been the after school type of program for many children and youth in the community. But for those that maybe are unfamiliar, the growth of the organization in terms of the areas of programming that we offer, both within the Kingston and the surrounding area, has really, been exponential. Now we have lots of programs from 2 different childcare centers. So in that early years, from 1 all the way up to 4. And then, with our before and after care program at multiple sites across the city. I got the opportunity to sit here last year to talk about the expansion of BGC Southeast in the Loyalist Township with the new after-school program that was at Amherstview Public School, building off of our relationships to the summer camps that we do already offer out in Amherstview, at Amherstview Public School and at Bath Public School. So where we're kind of looking at now is sort of the continuation and the growth of BGC Southeast, where we're trying to say is, okay, within our main or sort of central hub within the Kingston Center or in Kingston on Bath Road, but now how do we really sort of have a presence long-term and sustainably in the communities? So for Loyalist, where we're looking at is, okay, we're going to maintain that after-school program at Amherstview Public School, but we're also looking at the in-school kind of component of supporting both Our Lady of Mount Carmel and Bath Public School, in addition to Amherstview Public School, as well as the conversations with Odessa Public School and at Ernesttown Secondary School. Now, where that's kind of coming from is part of our other growth that we've done is on STEM and robotics, and a whole other area on literacy-based programs called a product called True Phonics. So through our conversations with the local school boards, we're seeing sort of more and more of a demand for these areas of expertise and contributions both within the community and within the schools themselves. So with the school board and then the specific conversations that we've had with Amherstview Public School on how sort of what we're able to provide last year, which I'll touch on just, in a second, is that I had that chance to kind of come and talk to you about a program that we were looking to do with bringing the Bath or Amherstview Public School students, our after school program, busing them out to the West End Community Center for our recreational sports league, which we did, which we were successful at. And, we had a lot of positive impact, but there was also some of the I guess the unforeseen sort of challenges on some of the parents and some of the community or the children, opting to wanting to stay out in Loyalist as opposed to being bused into town. So there was a little bit of that model that we looked at, okay, we could look at to modify or to change that. So with the new proposal that we've submitted is what we're looking to do is to say, okay, we really want to continue to serve the in-school kind of component for many of the schools from the K to 8 as well as the 9 to 12 within Loyalist, but look at bringing them into the West End Community Center so they can have these sort of experiential learning opportunities that specialize in the STEM and Robotics Center that we've built, So hands-on robotics, coding, programming, as well as the whole area on machine shop, welding, and carpentry. So we have all of these resources at hand, and we're looking to partner with the schools, in order to do that. The main sort of constraint that the schools have obviously identified is partially is the funding to transportation to bring them back and forth. So with this new sort of proposal, I said we're looking to be able to work directly with the teachers and support the in-school learning, changing it from the after-school model and busing kids and families out, but bringing them during the day and working with all of the schools out in this community. So I just wanted to share a little bit about the sort of the organization and the vision for our growth towards having a long-term and sustainable presence within the township.
Thank you very much. And I look to the committee if there's any questions for this presenter. Mr. Herbst.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thanks. Can you just explain what STEM involves?
My apologies. So in the education sector now, the acronym for STEM is this integration between the science, the technology, the engineering, and math, right? So the silos of subject areas that have been, in our education system for a while, it's now been shifted into more of this, how is this holistic thing? How do all of those subject areas kind of come together? So a great example is what we do in a lot of our programming is we take sort of real world project-based sort of scenarios, and we can create something that pulls in the curriculum links from science, tech, engineering, and math, and we apply it into a way where they can see those connections. So that's what that sort of area is. And I invite you, if you're coming through into Kingston, come and see. We built out a whole new 10,000 square foot facility behind the Mandarin, and it's sort of adjacent to the West End Boys and Girls Club. And it's decked out with classrooms that have all the robotics technologies and educational materials out there.
Madam Chair, just one follow-up. I guess it strikes me that you're providing an educational program that really belongs with schools. And why is it that you're the one who is doing the delivery as opposed to through the schools?
Well, it's a sensitive response. I mean, really, like if we take the two school boards around, each of the school boards has a STEM consultant or a STEM lead within the board that does bounce around to support educational technology and educators building their capacity towards integrating STEM concepts. However, the Ontario government made a change a couple of years ago to revise the curriculum, which included things like coding and programming and engineering design without any financial support to provide professional development opportunities. So there's a gap between the knowledge on educators and what now the demand for where children are seeing is what their interests may be. So what we've seen is the spike in our evening and weekend programs that families are seeking out STEM and enrichment opportunities has been through the roof. So we're working with the school boards now to try to say, okay, we can provide these other opportunities, to support what the schools are doing, and interns at the same time, hopefully build capacity for those educators. At the high school level is a slightly different piece too, because they have these special high skills major programs, so these SHISMs, and each of those high skills majors are supposed to partner with a community or an organization to get these sector experiences. So what we're able to do as well, when we pull in the high school students from, carpentry to automotive to wherever, we can then rely on our other community partners to kind of come to be on site to provide some further sort of enrichment. So we're just seeing ourselves as a great intermediary, trying to, provide additional opportunities. You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
We have questions from anyone else? Mr. Becky.
Just further to that line of questioning, where is the province in terms of funding? You indicated that they've created this beast, but they didn't attach any money to it. Is that changing? Is it evolving? Is it?
I mean, I don't know for certain what the provincial ministry government is going to do towards education. Obviously, they've had some, elections and changes and stuff. When they made the change, it was like the science and tech curriculum before they made the change 2 years ago. It was last updated in 2008, right? So it's been a full, 15 years or so before they revised that curriculum. At the same time, when they revised the education curriculum, they also included a lot on the indigenization and on the land sort of learning. So I think the choices for some of the school boards have been to figure out how their professional development opportunities are being allocated. Piggybacking to that is the shortage that has happened with supply teachers and in the education system. So not only is there isn't enough supply teachers, so if they even were able to offer professional development opportunities during the day, there isn't the amount of teachers that can come in and to cover for schools to do that release. So they're doing a lot of internal PD where they're shifting teachers around to make sure that they maintain ratios. So it's a bit complex. We know, from our interest that the boards and the teachers are keen on the content and the programming that we're offering and are looking to help, with looking to us for some support. But I don't know where the ministries are at or how the boards are going to be looking at their own professional development.
Are there any other questions? No. Well, thank you very much for the update and the presentation. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak during open forum? Ms. Turcott.
I'm here representing the Bath Seniors Hospitality Club. And we originally requested $1,000 from the committee this year. But reviewing our finances, we discovered that we probably would need another $500 in order to provide the 3 special meals we have during the year. The most expensive one, of course, being the Christmas dinner. Last year, we were lucky enough to have someone do the Christmas dinner at cost. The year before, it was over $1,150 for the Christmas dinner. So we have a little bit of a problem here financially. So if we have 44 members, we just celebrated 50 years being in the community. And we would be most thankful if you would consider our request. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions?
What was the original?
Originally, it was for $1,000 and we're requesting an increase of $500. I will say one thing about our seniors, and I'm a senior as well. We love our special dinners. We have 3 a year, which doesn't, the members do not have to put any money towards the 3 special meals we have in the year. March is pizza. They love pizza. And then at the end of the year, we only meet 10 months of the year, September till June. And at the end of the year, we try to have some special, either a dessert or a special meal to end the year. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the room that, yes, please, in the back.
Hi, I'm Holly Adam, and I'm representing St. John's Hall. And while it might appear to be associated with the church, what happens at St. John's Hall is far beyond the church. We have 14 regular renters there. That amounts to over 10,000 people using the hall on an annual basis. It really is a community hall, and we reach out to the community and are available for anybody to rent from us.
Good. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for this presenter? No. Thank you very much, Ms. Adams. And is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak to the committee? Seeing none, I'll go to the online audience. If you would like to speak to the committee, please use the raise hand feature.
Through the chair, I'm not seeing anyone in the virtual audience with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, then we will move on from open forum. Sorry, I was remiss to mention at the beginning of the meeting that Councillor Parks has sent regrets and Councillor Buderick may try to join us virtually when he's available. There are no delegations scheduled for this meeting, so now we move to reporting with a financial update from the Finance Division.
Thank you, Chair. For you is a table summarizing the financial position that's available for funds allocation. Within this, we have gotten council's approval to roll previous year's funds into it, which is the opening balance shown on the table. And we have shown the intakes 1, 2, 3, 4 based on the split of the money available by the percent in the policy. And we have indicated how much money has been allocated in intake 1. Although the intake 3 numbers are into the totals, but that would give you an estimated idea where you would be at the end of the year.
Looking to the committee, are there any questions about this report? Going once? Nope. All right. Thank you for that. We'll move on now to item number 8.2, which is the Clerk's Division update. And that is a summary of the 2025 grants. Did the staff have anything to add to that?
Through the chair, so the chart attached is again just a summary of what was approved during intake 1 2025 and how much was spent during that intake. The Clerk's Division would also like to provide some information in regards to Loyalist Township applications during this intake period. So during the 2025 budget meetings, Council passed a resolution at the first meeting on November 18th to submit an application to the Community Grant Program for the CEF program. And then Council passed another resolution on November 25th for the cemetery headstone work and the Fairfield House project. Due to these 3 resolutions being passed for 3 different projects, all applications have been submitted to the committee for their review. But the recommendation for approval or denial is up to the committee on these 3 applications. But staff would like to advise the committee so that they're able to note that the community grant policy Section 4.15 provides that all applicants shall only be entitled to 1 community grant from either the capital stream or the program event stream per year. And Section 9.3B and 10.3B provide that Loyalist Township as a municipality can submit a grant application provided that council has approved the application by resolution. And these motions for these applications to come to this committee meeting can be found in those budget committee meeting minutes.
Thank you very much. Does anyone on the committee have a question regarding the information provided by the clerk?
Through you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question, but it would have been really helpful had that information been in each of the applications.
And just for clarity, so what council did was approved staff applying. Council did not pre-approve any of the grants. Okay. Are there any other questions for the Clerk's Division on this? Seeing none. To the actual grant applications. So the first application before us is from the Amherstview Lions Club. They're requesting $12,588.20 to remove an existing sea container and replace with a new sea container for storage purposes. So if there are any questions about this application that we have for staff, we can ask those questions. Otherwise, I would look for a motion so that we can then discuss the application. Mr. Becking.
I guess a quick question. And I'll focus on myself. I'm a great collector of junk. And I know that many people, other people in organizations tend to be similarly inclined. Are staff satisfied that in fact a replacement is in fact justified?
with it go through the chair. I don't. Thank you. So through you, the chair, I don't believe there's anyone here from the Lions Club tonight to answer it directly, but I can try to support. So yes, staff do work very closely with the club. They host the annual Santa Claus parade, and there are a number of items that are required to be able to host that event safely and securely. They also support in bringing Santa to Loyalist Township, which is wonderful. And Santa requires a pretty, big and elaborate ride to go through the parade. So this CCAN helps to satisfy that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're not going to vote against Santa, are you?
Not a snowball's chance and you know where.
Are there any other questions about this application? If there's not,
But thank you through you, Madam Chair. One of the requests is for money for insurance, but according to 4.18 G, that would not qualify. It's not really a question, it's more of a statement. Apologies.
Yes, thank you again through the chair. Yes, so the club is aware that insurance is not according to policy. However, I believe the committee has the decision to, voice otherwise if they feel that it is important. So insurance is a big hindrance for a lot of small community organizations. It is very costly and expensive. And it is a requirement to have the new CCAN located in this area. So they are looking for financial support if the committee would consider to support with this initiative.
thank you. Any other questions before Ms. Teagle? No. I will look for a motion then from the committee, please. Mr. Becking.
Madam Chair, I'd move that, that the application be supported by council, including the provision of insurance, if that's the wish.
So the motion would read that the committee recommends that council approve the Amherstview Lions Club community grant application in the amount of $12,588.20. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. Rogers, thank you. And to the mover for any comment? Seconder? Anyone else on the committee? Are there any comments about this application? Seeing none, I will call the vote. Everyone in favor, please raise a hand. Everyone, okay, thank you. And so that motion passes. Item 9.2 is a Loyalist Township requesting $100,000 to support the design phase of the rehabilitation of the Fairfield House. Do we have any questions for staff on this application? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion from the committee. Mr. Hurst?
Madam Chair, I move the application by the township in respect of the Fairfield House rehabilitation be approved in the amount requested.
So that the committee recommends that council approve Loyalist Township's community grant application in the amount of $100,000. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Ms. Nye? And to the mover for any comment? Seconder, anyone else on the committee? Any comment about this application?
Just that it's an asset that we need to preserve very much.
Agreed. All right, seeing no other comments, I'll call the question. Everyone in favor, please raise a hand. Thank you. That's passed. Item 9.3, St. John's Hall requesting $10,811 to upgrade the hall's kitchen, parking lot, and exterior sign. Do we have any questions to staff about this application? No. Then I will look for a motion. Ms. Pierce.
I would move that, as was already commented, St. John's Hall is a community center. More than 50 years ago, my children went to a kids group there when they were preschoolers. And honestly, ever since then, I know I really appreciate the value that that facility has provided for the community. And I would move that.
Thank you. So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the St. John's Hall Community Grant application in the amount of $10,811. Do I have someone to second that motion? Mr. Hurst, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Pierce, Mr. Hurst, did you have any?
Simply agree, and I note that staff thought 14.18 would apply, but in these circumstances, it's clear that the hall is not operating as a religious building.
That's correct. So the policy for those in the audience does state that the community grants are not to support religious activities, but can be used for church halls if they're used for community spaces as well. Did anyone else have any comments about this application? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor of this grant, please raise a hand. Thank you. And that has passed. Item 9.4 is St. Paul's Presbyterian Church requesting $32,620.50 to upgrade well and water system on the property. Do we have any questions for staff on this application? And Ms. Pierce had previously declared a conflict on this one. No questions for staff? Then I will look for a motion from the committee. Mr. Hurst. Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Becking. So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the St. Paul's Presbyterian Church Community Grant application in the amount of $32,620.50. Any comments from the mover? From the seconder? Anyone else on the committee? No. Again, this is a church and church hall that's used for many community events, and so that's why it's being considered as well. Seeing no other comments, I will call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Thank you very much. Anyone opposed? Okay. Item 9.5, Trinity Church Amherstview is requesting $82,094.50 to replace the roof on the building. Were there any questions about this application?
Well, through you, Chair, I see when you had one estimate down on the roof, $82,904. I'm just wondering why they did not get at least two more estimates before they put the request in.
Okay, I will look to the clerk's division. Was there discussion with the applicant on why there was only one estimate provided?
Through the chair to Mr. Marshall. Yes, we did speak with the applicant, and at this time, that was the only quote that was able to be provided to them before the intake deadline.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? Then I will look for a motion. Mr. Hurst. Okay, and is there a seconder for that? Mr. Rogers, thank you. So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the Trinity Church Amherstview Community Grant application in the amount of $82,094.50. Any comments prior to taking a vote? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, please raise a hand. And that passes. Those are all of the capital applications, and now we're moving into the program event grant applications. So item 10.1 is the Bath Seniors Hospitality Club requesting $1,000 for seniors programs through 2025. And as we heard during the open forum, they've also asked that we give consideration to a bit more to cover the full costs for their programming. Are there any questions about this application? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion. Mr. Hurst? And do I have a seconder for that? Ms. Nye? So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the Bath Seniors Hospitality Club community grant application in the amount of $1,500. Any comments from the mover? From the seconder? Anyone else on the committee? No, I will call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. And that is approved. Item 10.2 is the Boys and Girls Club of Kingston and area requesting $10,000 to deliver STEM-focused field trips for children in grades 7 to 10 from 4 Loyalist Township schools. Are there any questions about this application? Mr. Hurst?
Madam Chair, I'm fully supportive of this. And problem, I guess, is in the application of the criteria with respect to wages, because that seems to be a large part of this. I would like to suggest that we as a committee should be able to express our view that the wage portion of this really is supportable. So, my perspective, this is not breach of any of the criteria for this application.
Thank you for that. Are there any other comments regarding that? Ms. Pierce?
I would agree with that comment. This has come up before, and I see it as similar to another instance where it's kind of for a one-off thing. It's not ongoing wages, and for that reason, I would support that.
You are correct. We do have past practice with the committee that wages have been approved for grants when it's not just asking to pay a full salary for a person for a year or something like that. I have a question for staff on this one. The Boys and Girls Club received money in the first intake this year. And the policy does not allow for more than one grant in a year. So is this organization excluded from being considered because of that?
To the chair, this can be up to the committee to make that determination on whether or not they are comfortable providing funding to a group like multiple times in a year.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Becking?
Just maybe a question or a comment on that. At the end of the day, really, it's council that's got to make that determination. We get the right to recommend. We don't have the right to make the final call. So it's up to council to decide whether they choose to support it or not.
That's correct.
Okay.
If there's no other questions or comments, I'll look for a motion from the committee. Mr. Becking?
I'll move that the application, we recommend that the application be approved.
And do I have a seconder for that? Ms. Nye? So the committee recommends that council approve the Boys and Girls Club of Kingston and area community grant application in the amount of $10,000. Are there any other comments on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Everyone in favor, please raise a hand. And that motion is passed. Item 10.3 is Lionhearts requesting $7,814.47 for the fresh food market and supplies, along with $2,185.53 of in-kind services for the community hall rental. Are there any questions about this application? Seeing none, I'll look for a question or a motion.
Through you, Madam Chair. Again, it strikes me that Lionhearts also was granted funds within the final year or the last year, was it not? Working with the clerk.
Lionheart, or through the chair to Mr. Herbst, Lionhearts has not received grant funding within 2025.
Thank you.
may have been another group, because there's several that do that kind of work. So are there other questions, Ms. Pierce?
I don't have a question, but I am struck by the need that's in the community that this grant is being requested to support. And, that's a whole other discussion, but if there's money available and there's definitely a need there, and maybe by allowing this to continue, we're not allowing senior levels of government to step up where it's needed, but anyway, I would not want that to, maybe it's my own feeling, to prevent this from being successful, because I think it's very deserving. And I would make a motion.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you. So then the motion for that is that the committee recommends that council approve the Lionhearts Community Grant application in the amount of $7,814.47 for the fresh food market and supplies, along with $2,185.53 and in-kind services for the community hall rental. Did I get a seconder on that? Mr. Herbst, thank you. And are there any other comments on this one? Seeing none, I'll call the question. If all in favor, please raise a hand. And the motion is carried. Item number 10.5 is the Loyalist Minor Soccer Association requesting $5,000 for the field lining of the 3 soccer fields.
Through the chair,
Yes.
we just skipped over item
I missed one.
10.4.
I'm sorry. Yes, I apologize. Item 10.4, the Loyalist Community Sharing Center requesting $10,000 for supplies to prepare meals for the community. Are there any questions about this application? I had a question to the clerk division on this one. There was not a lot of detail in the budget for this. Do we have the ability to get more detail on this, or can we provide clarity on what reporting? Because I also note that this group is derelict in giving us a report for past funding.
To the chair. So if council wishes to approve the funding, they could approve with the condition that quotes be provided to the clerk's division before funds are released. And in regards to the evaluation that is still remaining from 2024, funds are not released until evaluations are received from any community groups that have been approved in a new year.
If I may. It seems to me that what their plan is really to purchase groceries. So it probably would be appropriate to have a quote, but would they be required to give receipts for the items that they've purchased to run their program as part of their final report?
Through the chair, that is correct. So in the final report, we do ask for all receipts from anything that has been purchased with the funds issued. And typically with an application, we would request like a breakdown of what the typical items is that they purchase, so that even though the committee doesn't have an exact price of what it is, they're aware of what the funds would be used towards.
Does anyone on the committee have additional questions? Mr. Becky?
I, more comment, Madam Chair. I found that this application lacking in detail. I must confess, and maybe it's just me, but I'm confused. We're getting a number of applications from a number of different groups who one could interpret as being perhaps focused on the same user base, for lack of a better term. It just, I find it somewhat confusing. And so I think I appreciate where you're heading with your comments in terms of perhaps making the approval conditional upon some additional detail being provided and to make sure that we're not approving an application that is intended to provide a service to other groups that are being provided by other groups elsewhere in the community.
Mhm.
Anyway, that was my thought.
Thank you. Any other questions about this, Mr. Hurst?
Through you, Madam Chair. I'm aware of this organization, and it is a group that is very active in supporting a certain portion of the population in Amherstview. But I would agree with you that approval of this kind of an application should be contingent on the fulfillment of any outstanding obligations.
Ms. Pierce?
I agree with both the question and the comment that were made. I think this group does amazing work in the community, and not only does it, it provides, it gives money back to the community groups as well. And, you know, working for a few volunteer organizations, I can appreciate what a challenge it is to get good volunteer help, and all volunteer help is important. And I think they do a great job, and I really think anything we can do to support them, subject to those two conditions that were already made. The evaluation, I think we need to be consistent with that, making sure that they have it, and also we need to know how the money will be spent. So, yes, I would support this if someone makes the motion.
Mr. Peck?
Are you prepared to entertain a motion?
I am, yes.
Okay, then I would move that the application, however, that first and foremost, that will report from up to the 2024 operations, and that there be little detail provided as to how the funds are to be expended. Captures what we were.
Do we want the detail in advance, or do we want the detail in the next report that they provide us?
I would like to see the funds. If there is some concern with respect to how the funds are proposed to be spent. Pass, as it were, before.
I'm looking to the clerk's division.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Ken's question. So there is a problem with logistics because the committee does not meet before the funds are issued. So is the intent for the committee to authorize staff to review the financial breakdown and then evaluation form, or is the intent for the committee to approve it, which means that you would have to have another meeting because you can't make these decisions over email. So I just want to make sure that if it's the intent for committee to authorize staff to review that breakdown and then okay it and release the funds, that recommendation is clear. Or what we could do is try to get the financial breakdown before council sees the recommendation on July 8th. And if once the breakdown is provided, then we can provide it to council, and then it would be made public, and the committee could be made aware. But again, we just need to know like what you want to do and who's approving the financial breakdown, because you won't technically have a meeting before July 8th.
If I could read into it, I'm asking the committee if you would be comfortable. I think that what we have is an opportunity for staff to spend a bit of time with this group, guide them with putting a little bit more detail about what they plan to do, And I would be comfortable if staff were comfortable. I'm seeing nods, so I'm going back to the motion. So then the motion would be that the committee recommends that council approve the Loyalist Community Sharing Center community grant application in the amount of $10,000, conditional on staff working to get more clarity on the plan and also the submission of the report from previous funding.
Madam Chair. The comment was made by the clerk that the council meeting where the grant will be approved is on July 8th, did I understand? Okay, well, we're gonna have to hustle, but I think council should know where the money is going before council makes the final call. So if it's all the same to committee members, I think the intent would be that staff will work with the applicant to get the necessary information and provide it to council in advance of the decision, would be my recommendation.
Okay.
And I
Mr.
would second that motion.
All right. So is that clear for staff on what the motion is? That the information is provided to council. Is there any other comment on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor of the motion? Please raise a hand. Thank you. We are now at 10.5. Loyalist Minor Soccer Association requesting $5,000 for the field lining of the 3 soccer fields. Do we have any questions about this application? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion. Mr. Hurst.
Chair, I move the approval of the request for $5,000.
Okay, and do we have a seconder for that? Ms. Nye. So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the Loyalist Minor Soccer Association community grant application in the amount of $5,000. Are there any further comments regarding that to the mover, seconder? Anyone else on the committee? Seeing none, I will call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. And the motion has passed. Item 10.6 is Loyalist Township requesting $10,000 for a staff administered study for the Community Efficiency Financing Program. As noted earlier in the meeting, Rule 14.5 or Item 14.5 in the policy says that applicants can only be entitled to 1 community grant from either the capital stream and or the program event stream per year. So that does play into the 2 applications now from Loyalist Township because the committee has recommended approval of the capital grant. So I will leave that for the committee. Are there any questions about this application? Ms. Nye.
Less of a question and just more of a comment, given that there are 2 applications, is unless I read it wrong, 100% of this is going to wages. 100% of this is going to wages.
Mr. Hurst.
Agreed. I think the policy allows us to consider exceptions. Would be an exception that I think is worth it.
Also agreed. I'm just noting it because there are the 2 applications that if we wanted to weigh one heavier than the other, that might be something to exclude it, maybe.
I'll look to Mr. Becking.
And by extension, the policy, I think it would be very much in both staff and council's interest that each application come forward as a standalone item. So I'm not so fussed that we're getting 2 applications or 3 applications or 5 applications, quite frankly, because I think it's rather than having all of them thrown into one, I think having separate, distinct applications is very much in everyone's interest. So I'm not particularly fussed about that aspect of the policy.
Any other comments on this one? I will look for a motion. Mr. Hurst. Okay, and do we have a seconder for that? Mr. Rogers, thank you. So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the Loyalist Township community grant application in the amount of $10,000. There any other comments on this? Ms. Pierce? Oh. Sometimes I can read her mind, but not right now. All right, with no other comments, I will call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Anyone opposed? One opposed, but the motion carries. The next is 10.7, Loyalist Township requesting $10,000 for critical repairs to headstones, monument markers, and township-maintained cemeteries. This is the clerk's department's application. Are there any questions about this application? Ms. Nye?
Apologies if this is well known, but is it the responsibility of the township to repair headstones or the families? I don't know the answers, hence the question.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Kara. So it is in the cemetery bylaw that the township has passed that the municipality, where it presents a risk to public safety, that the municipality do anything needed to repair or restore the monument or the marker.
Do we have any other questions regarding this item? Ms. Pierce?
I just have a comment, or maybe two comments. I can understand the safety aspect of this, and I also can appreciate that the perpetual care funds, I mean, I know that has been upgraded, but it's inadequate. And also the township has taken on more cemeteries than, in the last few years than originally were under the township's ownership and responsibility. When we have to talk about feeding kids in schools or other priorities in our community, it's hard to see that this is not something that maybe could wait. On the other hand, if there is a safety hazard, then obviously there's a liability issue as well. I think as much as I'm a bit of mixed feelings about this, I would support it. But it wouldn't be top on my list. So that's a comment, it's not a motion.
Madam Chair, so we have a number of checkpoints on our monuments. So the safety risk, we do a force test based on, it's 1.5 meters from the ground level up to the height of the tombstone. The higher the stone, the greater the risk, depending on the force test. So we do actually measure a pressure, and if the stone begins to topple, we stop the test, and then we identify it as a risk. And the higher the stone, the greater the risk. Just the fact that if it does topple over on somebody within the cemetery, that would be a great liability. So, and it's all related. So the checklist items really, they're related in a point that the headstone is attached to the base, which is attached to a footing. And if any of those seals break, then the stone becomes loose. And then again, we do the force test and sort of match it up that way.
Any other questions? Ms. Nye?
Again, more of a comment. Thank you for that explanation. And just further to what you were saying, Diane, I look at all of these other applications and how they bring community together. And this one just feels like it doesn't fit quite as much to me. Is kind of exclusive to a membership. So it is a bit of a challenge for me as well.
Any other questions? Ms. Pierce? Okay, so it is a bit of a challenge for me as well. Mr. Becking.
Madam Chair, I had an opportunity to have a chat with staff before the meeting. And I come from a place of some knowledge, having been responsible for cemeteries for probably a good chunk of my career over the years. This is the sort of activity that, quite frankly, should have been covered by the perpetual care funds. The fact that funds are inadequate is frankly spilt milk. Should have, coulda, shoulda, woulda. The other thing that I would draw to the committee's attention here is that there's a statutory obligation on part of the municipality. When these cemeteries are abandoned, you don't have a choice. You are required to maintain them. And to staff's comment about safety, if one of those things came down on somebody, they're going to get hurt. I fully concur that these funds are not an appropriate use for this purpose, in my personal opinion. These are ongoing liabilities for the township, and the township has an obligation under statute to step up and deal with it. So to me, there should have been a line item in the budget, repair of headstones, X number of dollars, $10,000. If that's what it takes. And unfortunately, that's the way the law of the land is set up.
Thank you. I have a question for staff. So if this project does not successfully obtain a grant, will you then be asking for funds to come from general rate to do the work? I'm assuming the work will get done.
Madam Chair, we do have funds in the budget for our cemetery maintenance. A large portion of that is taken up through turf maintenance or grass cutting and trimming. So I know in previous years, we do have a new contractor this year who's come in a little bit cheaper than the ones we had in the last 3 years. However, saying that, it usually exceeds our budget with cemetery maintenance, which includes filling in sunken graves, and some, I guess, tree maintenance, picking up dead branches, and just cleaning up the cemetery in general. So it'd be a budgetary item for like 2026. It'd be something that we'd have to go back to council to get more money in order to perform these headstone maintenance.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Pierce?
Yes, I'm going to retract my previous comment saying that reluctantly I would support this. I don't think I will. But I like Mr. Becking's comments. And I do appreciate, honestly, cemeteries are, you could spend all the money available on cemeteries and they still would never be really adequate. And I guess we have to make choices about how, are we going to, except for, I agree with the liability issue, a problem, and I'm sure that that will be addressed just as a matter of course, but I think I would not support this in retrospect.
Thank you for that. So the committee's motion is that the committee recommends that council deny the Loyalist Township community application in the amount of $10,000. Do I have a seconder for that? Ms. Nye. Any further comment? So I will call the question. Everyone in favor of denying the application, please raise a hand. Anyone not in favor of the motion? Mr. Rogers, noted. Thank you. And the motion passes. Next, we have the Nielsen Store Museum and Cultural Center requesting $3,000 for the administration of the Woolly Billy foot races on Amherst Island. Are there any questions about this application, Mr. Rogers?
My exact question.
So, from my knowledge of the Woolly Bully race, it's called the Woolly Bully because there are a lot of sheep on Amherst Island. It's a foot race that happens on the island with the local Kingston runners, and it's a fundraiser for the museum that's on the island.
Oh, nothing to do with the sheep.
No, no, it's just the cute name for the race. Okay. Do we have any other questions about this application? Ms. Pierce? Oh, no. Then I will look for a motion, please.
I will make
Ms.
that
Pierce.
motion.
Thank you. And seconder? Mr. Bucking, thank you. So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the Nielsen Store Museum and Cultural Center community grant application in the amount of $3,000. And any further comments on this one? No, I will call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. Mr. Becking,
A quick question. Did the runners chase the sheep or did the sheep herd the runners?
the sheep watch the runners. I'm sure everyone's welcome to come and witness the Woolly Bully. Item 10.9, the Odessa and District Lions Club requesting $5,000 for insurance, equipment, and staff training for the Wilton Remembrance Day service. Are there questions about this application? I have one for staff. The application for the storage container had insurance of $159. This one, the insurance is almost $1,000 for a half-day event. Do we know why that insurance is so expensive?
To the chair, we don't have exact information from the applicant. However, with insurance, you can pay a higher premium depending on risk. So there could be a higher risk associated with this, increasing the insurance cost for the event.
Because they're closing the roads? Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee on this application? Then I would look for a motion. Mr. Hurst. Okay, and seconded by Mr. Becking. So the motion is that the committee recommends that council approve the Odessa and District Lions Club Community Grant application in the amount of $5,000. Any further comment on this? Then I will call the question. All in favor, please raise a hand. And that passes. Item number 11.1 is outstanding follow-up items, and there are no outstanding items as I see it, so thank you for that. The upcoming meeting, so the next meeting will be scheduled in October 2025 to consider applications submitted under the 2025 Intake 3. I will note that today is Mr. Marshall's last meeting on the committee, so we thank him for serving from the inception of the Community Grant Committee.
Pleasure.
It was a pleasure to have you, and we lose you to your other volunteer activities, don't we? Yes, we do. Thank you very much for your service. And now I will look for a motion to adjourn. Ms. Nye,
I motion we adjourn.
and do I have a seconder on that? Ms. Pierce, the meeting will adjourn at 4:25 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for coming.